In the earlier video, you saw the strategies, basically how we find out the missing in target, extra in target, and the data mismatch. Email is just an example here, but data mismatch. We'll keep it simple. So in this video, we'll see how we execute the reconciliation SQL in source database, target database, then one intermediary database where we'll run the union of all the mismatches and finally get a result. Okay, so the strategy we are going to follow is we'll find out the counts whether they are matching or not, then extracts from the source and the extracts from the target they are matching or not. We'll be going back to this figure often and often just to bring everything on track, and just to keep in mind that we have a source database and we do a replication from source to staging database, then we run transform and load, finally the data is loaded into the target database. So instead of we doing a source and target reconciliation, if we can do staging and target reconciliation, that's pretty much the same thing. So we don't touch source database because that's a live database that keeps on running, so we don't have to disturb that. Okay, so let's jump into actions. So before we get into the execution, let's see our databases are ready or not. In the earlier videos, you might have seen, if you have not seen, just go and watch this, how we brought up the source database, how we brought up the staging database, and how we ran the replication which brought all the source tables to the staging table. Then we ran the reconciliation process here. So there are various tabs here. You see our EPA server is running, replication process running, transform and load process running, and finally we run the final stage where it brings everything transformed to the target database. As you remember, we have seen this mapping sheet, which is nothing but a requirement specification for your ETL project, and the gist or the main important tab in this is these tabs, entity tabs. These are all summary, version control, and you have the NFT tabs and all, but main important tabs are this, where it says in the source field how the data should land in the target field. So here the transformation rule is defined here. Okay, so our source entities is customer. Look at this, and the customer data after transformation goes and gets loaded into person's data. Similarly, so on and so forth. For your source field, source data is online order here, and source field are all this item name, quantity, customer ID, and how they transforms to orders table here. Okay, that you have seen. You can go and watch the earlier videos. Similarly, you see the source entity online, how it gets transformed to import. Okay, so we'll not get into those details in this video. There is a separate video. You can go and watch this, already uploaded there. Okay, now to keep it simple, we'll take the customer records and reconcile with person's record in the target. Okay, so our database is ready or not. Let's give a sanity check. So this is our source database, and I have opened a tab here. Source database we are not going to touch, sorry for that. So let's get into the staging database. Okay, staging database, and in the staging rep DB, we are calling it that way because it's a staging and it's replicated. So let's see customer is running or not. Yeah, so we have two customer records here. and 2 online orders. We'll focus only on customer. So let's see, they are running fine. So we have John Doe and Elias Johnson, and they have their respective email IDs, so on and so forth, all the data. And similarly, let's get in the target database, and there is a target database connection here, and all these entities should be available, but we are more focusing on persons record here. So there are one person here, one person here, and one person here. Okay, so for time being, let's remove this function, remove this person. Okay, just to make sure, because this was error introduced later, which we are going to introduce again and run the reconciliation job. Okay, now to keep it simple, let's take this guy out. Go to target database, tables. Which table is this? This is persons. Remove it. Hopefully it's gone. Now let's run it once again. Yeah, it's gone. So this target data, you see, it's slightly different here. That's because the transformation rule was applied. Transformation logic is running here. The job is running. That's why it has transformed the data and loaded here. Okay, so we are pretty much on track to run the reconciliation job. So what we have done so far is we checked this replication has been done to staging database, and staging database is ready. Transform and load has been done, and target database is ready. So here we saw the customer records, and in target database we saw the persons records. Okay, now let's go to our strategy, how we do it. So before we get into this and find out, let's run the count SQLs, whether the count should match or not. The counts are matching or not. Okay, so let me copy the customers entity count query, which is pretty simple. Let me explain you here. So this query is from the source, and we are in the source database, and we'll run it here. Paste it. It's saying count star as total customer records from staging database public and customer table, and this is the final table here. So staging database, public schema, and the customer table. Okay, let's close that. Let it be open. It's not, doesn't do any harm. And if we run this, see, there are 2 customer records, and both of them are distinct. Means there is no duplicate record. So those 2 and 2, we have 2 source records, and in the target, if we don't see 2 records, there's something wrong. So that means reconciliation in process found non-matching records. Okay, let's get to the target query, where it's same thing it's showing. Where's the target one? Yeah, target is here. Select count star from this, copy it, go to the target database and run that query. Same thing, total person records and distinct IDs. There are 2 person records and both of them distinct. So pretty much matching. So this, you can scale it to hundreds and thousands of records and various entities. So I'm just showing you the principle, how we run a reconciliation process. Okay, we're going step by step. Now these 2 part is done. We have taken the count from source, count from the target. Now we'll get into the extracts. Okay, extracts. So before, okay, let's copy this source extract. Let's do the source extract first. Okay, so what it is doing, it is fetching the ID and email ID from source database schema and the customer entity. Okay, let's run it. Yes, so it got all the records. So for the simplicity, it's just 2 records. It could be 2000 or 2 million records also. So it has got both the records of the customer and displayed here. What we'll do, we'll export this to a CSV file. Export is nothing but your downloading. Okay, let's add the column header. Okay, and let's name it as source entity name. Let's say, for example, you can name it anything, but we are just making it meaningful. Source customer extract. Okay, so it is going to download folder and export to file. So it exported. Let's download. Yeah, you got the file. Okay, so that bit is done. So this bit is done. Now we'll go to the target extraction. Let's go to target and extract query here. Copy it. Pretty much same way, but only the entities and the columns will change here. Extract, paste it here. Select ID, email ID from target database schema and the entity table. Order by ID makes it easy for reconciliation. Okay, let's run that. Yes, so it has got the target IDs and the email IDs. Let's export this, which is nothing but download. Okay, add column header. So it added the headers to the CSV file. Now we can name something meaningful. Target persons.csv, and it's going to the download folder. Export to file. Let's see. Yes, we have the data here, the target and the source. Okay, so pretty much done. Now the next stuff is, let's get back to our strategy. Yeah, so we have done source count and extracts and target count and extracts. Okay, now we'll go and do the reconciliation check. First we'll run, before we run the reconciliation, because these things are in CSV file, let's get those CSV data into a temporary schema from somewhere. You can have a new database here. You can get new database here, or if you have some space in your staging database, without disturbing your schema, your regular schema where you got a replication, you create a new schema. Let me drop this. Saying because, so let's drop these tables first. Yeah, tables gone. Let me drop this. So gone. Okay, so you're back to your staging database as it is with your source tables here. Now for a reconciliation process, we will create a new schema where we'll do our reconciliation operations in that schema, so without disturbing anything anywhere else. Okay, let's create a schema. We call it as recon. Okay, now we have our extracts, which is source extracts and target extracts saved in the CSV files here, which we did that, right? Let's import that into table. For example, you have import feature here. This I'm using, this is something called data grip, you see here, but you can use DBeaver. There's a separate video how to use DBeaver there, which is open source. This is a paid software because I have got open source license, so I got it free, but you can download and see whether peer option is there, or it is exactly like this. There is a software called DBeaver, DBeaver, pretty much this, pretty much same UI look and full, same workflow. Okay, you go and import one by one. Import data from files. We'll first import the source. Okay, now it is asking what is the table name. So we'll stick to a simpler table name where it will be easy for us to do the reconciliation job. Let's say source customer we'll make. Okay, table name we'll make it source customer. Exactly, it's a customer, but we're just putting an underscore and source there, and it has automatically mapped the IDs and columns. Now we'll do import. Import successful. You have got a source customer, and in that two columns, and you should be having the data there. Okay, now next thing is we'll import target data, target persons. Okay, so for that we'll also make some meaningful name, target persons, just matching our SQL queries which we have pre-framed. I'll share all this SQL in a GitHub repository or in the video description. Just go and have a look. We'll get the SQL straight away, and then you can manipulate your database schema, table names, and run those. Let's run the import. Yes, now we have both the tables. Okay, so we are ready for running the further reconciliation process, which is the first one is missing in target. Okay, we saw here. The first thing is we'll find out what is missing in the target. Okay, let's pick the first one, missing in target, copy it and paste it here. So what it is doing, it is getting all the IDs and emails from staging reconciliation schema from here and the source customer, and it is doing a left join. This is very important. Okay, left join and checking in target persons with that ID. Okay, with that ID matching with the source customer ID, where the target ID is null. That means, is there any data in your source not available in target? Let's run it. But in our case, because it's a happy case, there should be nothing. So see, there's nothing here. Nothing. So that means the ETL process has run fine. Okay. So one bit is done. Now next bit is extra in target. Copy it here. It is doing similar way, but it has reversed the query. You see, it is selecting from the target and going and checking in the source whether it is not available. You see, their source.id is null. Okay, let's run this. This should also fetch nothing. See, nothing. Okay, so we are covered here. Now third one is data mismatch check. Let's see what it is doing. So it is checking ID and email from source and email from the target, where your source ID is target ID. That means your customer ID same as person ID. Only pick those records and see is there any mismatch. That means is there any email ID not matching with the target email ID? Any source email ID not matching target email ID. They are the mismatches. This should also yield nothing because our reconciliation process has gone fine. Okay. Now we can run. So we have pretty much done the reconciliation process in a bit by bit process. Now we can combine all this and generate a nice report. Because you are using SQL, it's better to run everything at once and show it to your test lead or test manager that this is how we have